Now, Italy was the first Western nation to be hit hard by the coronavirus, and it suffered terribly for it, with the fourth highest fatality rate per capita in the world. It was also the first nation to seemingly emerge out of the pandemic and then suffer multiple relapses. And now it's struggling to vaccinate its population. Now, Italy's experience provided a valuable cautionary tale with some crucial lessons about the pandemic, including for Israel. Well, joining us now in studio and his first visit back to Israel since, he tells me, last February, Dror Adar, the Israeli ambassador to Italy. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
First of all, I have to ask you, you took up your post, I believe, September 2019, right before the start of the pandemic. What has that year been like for you in Italy? Like I said, maybe more than any other Western country, really getting hit by that coronavirus.
Yes. My last visit in Israel was in February 2020. We just heard about what's going on in Asia or in China. We didn't know that this, let's say, destiny will strike us in Italy. And right at the beginning of March, we're speaking about February 19th, when there was a football game between Atalanta and Brescia in Italy, and in Milano, San Siro, there were 44,000 people in the crowd. Didn't take any protection measure, and it was defined by a journalist as a bomba biologica.
Right, a biological bomb.
Yes.
That's maybe the first real super spreader event in the Western world.
2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks after that, at the beginning of March, the virus started to...
I'm curious, when you were the ambassador, you were filing your cables and reporting back to Israel. Were you saying, listen, this thing is striking like a bomb in Italy. We have to start preparing. We have to be careful. We have
to... So in the beginning, you know, like everyone, I deny. I was in a deny.
Right.
But at the beginning of March, yes, I called the Prime Minister office and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I told them, if there is something to learn from Italy, is not hesitate taking urgent measures. It means that every plan that you have in the next 4 weeks, do it now. Close everything now. And we saw it, that Israel was the first to close the gates of the airports. Actually, Italy was irritated on us in that occasion. They called me from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They said, oh, why are you punishing us? But 1 week after, all the countries of the region closed their gate from Italy, but since then, I mean, we've been through a very harsh year. It means that...
Well, let me ask you, because that's another lesson, which is that Italy, I think even more than once, it seemed like it was coming out on the other side. They eased up measures, and then the disease struck again, something that, unfortunately, we have also seen in this country.
Yes, I think that everyone, I mean, the structure of waves that we have in this pandemic, but psychologically, at about June, July, August, Italy became green. And people deluded themselves that we are after it. And then came the autumn, and the pandemic struck again. And psychologically, it was more hard for the people to absorb. And actually, the second wave was more violent than the first wave. Now we are speaking maybe about the third wave. And it's very interesting because we saw at the last weeks, we saw a decrease. And now there is increasing because this is very interesting. They're saying that it's because the English variant
Right.
the British variant.
These variants. Let's talk also about the vaccination issue, because that has also become very alarming in Italy. I just read they actually froze a shipment of AstraZeneca that was supposed to go to Australia, and there have been a lot of concerns that the EU is not quickly efficiently distributing vaccine. We've seen Austria and Denmark just this week turn to Israel for help.
I tell you, I was, as a historian, I had lots of reflections about this question. Why is it the behavior of Europe? Why don't they have the same sense of urgency that we have in Israel? Maybe historically, the Jews, because of our history, we're afraid of any danger and we prepared. But I told them in Italy, in the media, in other places, if it was a real war, we would expect from the leaders of Europe that to achieve arm from any place in the world. So if these airplanes didn't fly, we would expect them to buy from other places. So the same with the vaccine. I ask, why don't the leader in Brussels, the leader of the EU, go to the CEO of Pfizer, CEO of Moderna, and tells them, you know, you don't have the capacity, you can't have the capacity of producing the vaccines for all the world. We have in Europe many factories that can produce and manufacture these vaccines. Please sell us the formula and we will produce it. And Europe will produce all the vaccines for all the world.
Right. It sounds like they're realizing that a little on the late side.
Now, I spoke. They told me it's not diplomatic, but I said, you know, this is a crucial time. And I know that there are some ministers in the new government, they read or heard my voice, and they're speaking now about producing. And also I think that the measure of the new Prime Minister, Draghi, it's achievement that he stopped 250,000 vaccines because he said we have to take care ourselves before other.
Right. I do want to go on, Mr. Ambassador, briefly to another subject that you've written about for Yisrael Hayom, which you used to write for more on a regular basis, and that is the decision by the International Criminal Court to open an investigation into alleged war crimes by Israel and the Palestinians. You wrote, this decision harms its legitimacy and the reasons for which it was established, because it is a politicization of the court and morality to be used against Israel. What is the feeling in Italy, in Europe, diplomatically about the ICC probe into Israel?
I feel, as a historian, I feel that Europe is tired. Europe is tired. Europe is not willing to fight even for itself, and of course not for Israel. But what we see is a constant action against Israel to single out Israel. Singling out Israel in any international arena. We know that every year in the UN Assembly, there are about 20 resolutions anti-Israeli. And we have one name in history to single out Jews and judging them in a double standards. What everyone can do, the Jews cannot do. The Jew cannot defend themselves as other nations. This has a correct name in history, anti-Semitism. It means that you don't judge the Jews by their rights to live, but what they should not do. I just give you another example.
Well, just very briefly, if you could do it in just 10 seconds.
So we do not expect from the ICC to do justice, because justice is not what they seek. They seek maybe to promote, or this prosecutor to promote herself after she is now finishing, to promote herself on account of Israel, and when the Palestinians ask us to do many things for them, like in vaccination, in the international arena, they do not give us credit.
We'll have to end on that. Ambassador Dror Dar, thank you for joining us.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Thank you.
$120 seats, hundreds of political hopefuls, and dozens of parties. But how familiar are you with their political agendas? What do they want for the future of Israel? I-24 News answers these questions by bringing you interviews with Israel's leading decision makers and parliamentary candidates. Only on I-24 News.
A fresh primetime lineup, the largest international news network broadcasting live from the Middle East. At 6 p.m. Eastern, The Rundown will take you live inside the day's top stories and breaking news. Then at 8 p.m., Global Eye will take you on a journey through the day's big events with voices from all over the world. And at 9 p.m., we'll zoom in even closer on the big stories, the ones